Some people think it is scary to start investing, with the whole stock market thing. It's difficult to decode what it's all about. But is it scarier to start investing rather than having to work until you're 70? It's one of the things that we're going to discuss today. You're listening to Investing Mastermind Podcast. My name is Signe.
And I'm Michelle Markey.
So the government really want us to work and the retirement age get pushed and pushed. And I can imagine, as I grow older, it's just going to be pushed. And I wonder, will I ever be able to retire and actually enjoy life? I enjoy traveling, I enjoy hobbies, but with the way that the government want us to work, they really want us to stay in the job market. I can't imagine not working necessarily, but just the thought of them actually deciding for me when I have to stop is scarier for me than actually investing. How about you, Michelle? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I got into wanting to invest and trying to be better at it so as to avoid the fate of having to work until the typical retirement age, like say it's 67 right now. And I feel like it's okay if you want to work that long just because you enjoy the work and you're having a good time doing it. But it's another thing that you're being forced to work because you don't have enough money saved up or invested. So I would rather have the power in my hands and save and invest as much as possible while I'm young so I can make the decision, not say a government or someone else making the decision for me whether I have to work or not in my later age.
When I was young, when I was in my 20s, it was right after the IT crash of 2000. And I remember there was a lot of people that were about to retire at the time and through their pension fund had been investing in stocks. So their pension fund had been investing for them. And I just remember all the stories about they were about to retire, lost all their money, so now they couldn't retire, and a lot of scary stories. So I do remember actually being scared to start investing in stocks because there was potential for losing money. And that's why I also think today that I really like the Warren Buffett strategy, for example, because it is long term. We do quite an extensive amount of work to actually get to know individual businesses. So we're not just trying to decode the whole stock market necessarily, but rather than focus on the stock market, we focus on individual businesses. And that, makes me comfortable. But I also, still to this day, I do remember some of those scary stories because at that time, I didn't know that the stock market also worked in cycles. So that, sometimes every, they say 7 to 10 years, that then stocks potentially start going down. And what happened back then was that there was a cycle, and it did take some time for the stock market to kind of get back to a decent level, and a lot of people never recovered from the loss they had back then. And it could happen again potentially, but it is about, first of all, understanding what you're investing in, circle of competence, and not investing in, for example, if you don't know a lot about AI, don't invest in it. I feel like there's kind of an AI gold rush going on right now, and people, if a company comes out and say, "Oh, we invested in some AI," then everybody's gonna, you see the stock just jump.
That could be something to consider is if you don't know much about AI, could you be coming in at the tail end of the hype cycle because you've been hearing about it? Like it's been in the foreground for a little while now. Like a lot of stocks that were in the dumps for tech stocks started jumping in the fall of 2022. So if you're only getting into it now, could you be subject to the greater fool theory where you just jumped on the bandwagon because other people are saying, oh, this is great. This stock is doing so well in AI stuff. And it sounds great. It sounds like the future. It's going to be amazing. But then you might be left holding the bag when things crumble and AI is not necessarily delivering on everything it promised people. Like you could do some things, but maybe it's not yet that mature. And it could be the beginning of some dark times for some companies that they're facing challenges with AI. Like it's not all that it's cut out to be, or even Google, like it's starting to lose market share to others like TikTok about some AI challenges it's having now. And sometimes some of the Google results that appear, I don't always trust the AI overview that gives you a first result from your search, because sometimes it's actually wrong. And you have to look at other articles, like say ones that multiple authors that maybe have some credibility have written the same thing, just to know that the AI result is actually wrong. So it's interesting if we're falling for that. But overall, besides some things to be a little bit mindful about in the stock market, it's still a good idea to invest. And you just have to balance that with, if you're about to retire in the next 10 years, you have enough money to afford your lifestyle every year, that whether the stock market is up or down, or whether we're in the beginning of a lost decade, that you're not freaking out that all of your money is in the stock market and you invested in all the AI stocks and you're going to lose your money. As long as you don't do that, maybe you'll be okay if you've been spreading some of that across different types of asset classes. So it's somewhat better to be diversified, not necessarily across so many stocks, but maybe different types of assets. So what I mean by that is we have some diversification, some money in the stock market, maybe some in bonds, maybe some in a high yield savings account, or by having other income streams. Like if you have a business and you're getting money that way, that's a diversified asset class. So there could be many ways you could be getting income where no matter what the stock market is doing, you're not depending on that for your survival in the next few years, especially if you're close to retirement.
And that's a really important point there, Michelle. Also, it's really important when you invest in stocks that you set yourself up in a way so that you don't have to withdraw the money you've invested in the stock market at a time where it's not a great time. What I mean is that you allocate some money to always have some savings in case of if the car breaks down or you need a new refrigerator or something like that happens, or if you lose your job, that you will actually be able to pay for rent and utilities, etc. And that that you don't have to pull out money from the stock market when it might not be a good time. And then of course you also really want to do your due diligence when investing in stocks and in actually learning about the business. Is this a quality business, or is it like a sickly business? Because you don't want to hold on to a sickly company, then potentially you could, there's only one way, and that's down. Whereas if you invest in a wonderful business at a fair price, like Warren Buffett says, then you're more likely to actually even being able to recover after potential recession or whatever is going on. It's not always, of course, that we can foresee, okay, this company actually did not make it through that recession, but at least you did some work to actually ensure that you find some good quality instead of potentially investing into something that is just on the brink of, or could go bankrupt any day soon. And it's just like right now where we see certain companies that where they're just losing money all the time and they're getting hyped, and you see those stocks as being trendy and people are talking on them on social media. It's a big gamble when it's like that. And where when we talk about retirement money, and if it's something that, okay, if you're one of those people that are a little bit concerned about actually starting to invest and think it's difficult to get started, and then you hear all those people out there with all the gambling, I do understand why it can feel scary, because then you hear about all the gains, but also about the loss that people have.
The answer is to try to make ourselves get over the fears we have. Overall, it's still better to try to invest than to just stuff your cash money under a mattress or in a low yielding account. Like a lot of bank accounts give no interest. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you just keep your money in something that's not giving you any interest or yield whatsoever. So it's still better to put your money in a high yield savings account if you can find one, and also, or invest in the stock market in the companies, like Signe said, that you have researched and you understand and you know where they're going and you believe in them and you think they'll be stronger in the future, that they're not about to like go out of business or wipe out the stockholders. So, for example, even though Boeing is a duopoly and it has a lot of command of the aviation industry, but if it racks up too much debt and the workers could lose their jobs, they could wipe out the company as far as the shareholders, and then they start over once the government gives them a bailout. And then that was a bad company to invest in, even though it had a lot of positives going for it. Of there's not a lot of competition for the work that it does, and it's crucial, but it just is a difficult business model to be an investor in. So something like that could be on the verge of bankruptcy, you want to be careful about. Like, I'm not saying Boeing is, but whenever a company racks up too much debt, and then if they either get bailed out by the government or not, you're going to want to be wary of companies that, why are they racking up all this debt? And can they generate enough earnings to be able to get out of that situation? So I think that there could be a lot of warning signals for a lot of companies that racked up debt, especially at higher interest rates. And when those loans start coming due, like the corporate debt that companies have acquired, when that starts coming due in the coming years at higher rates, then I think that there will be potentially a reckoning. So something to be mindful about, but it shouldn't scare you. As long as you've done your homework, you should be able to invest in some things. And even if it's just the S&P 500, and even if we're at market highs and the stock market tumbles right now, just put a little bit in, something you're comfortable with experiencing the pain of what feels like you're losing. So if you put $100 in and then the stock market goes down and now you're at $80 market value, it's okay, because probably someday it will recover. And whether it recovers in a year or 10 years from now, you have to be willing to be in it for the long term. And that's the most important lesson that you can take away from, no matter if you feel like it was a mistake or a good idea, you learn something from it either way.
And now you might be a little bit frustrated thinking, okay, but what do I need to do? What are the next steps? And, we've done a lot of episodes explaining what we look into about the circle of competence, about moat, which is Warren Buffett, what he calls competitive advantage. And you'll be able to actually find those episodes where we talk about some of these things. And Michelle, she's got a YouTube channel where you've also done a lot of videos explaining some of these core concepts. So if you're out there thinking and getting a little bit frustrated now in terms of why aren't you guys telling me what to do, you can go back, find some of the episodes from the first episodes we also did in this podcast and actually listen to them. It's in the archive. So go back and listen to some of the previous podcasts, because there we actually tell you what exactly you need to do, because we can't do it in this episode. It's going to take too long to go through everything. So go back and listen to some of the previous episodes or visit Michelle's YouTube channel. So we'll make sure to link to Michelle's channel also in the episode notes here.
And if you want more coaching, also check out Signe's coaching courses at investingista.com. You can learn a lot about how to invest from Signe, and you need more guidance than what we're talking about today. I think Signe can help you on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle and I think it's pretty obvious. Of course, we do have this podcast called Investing Mastermind Podcast. So it's pretty obvious that, of course, we're going to say it's a good idea to invest in the stock market. But of course, we're also about being really smart about your investments and not jumping into something that is very, very, like Michelle also mentioned, a couple of companies or a company where, it could be gambling if you do it, but instead make some smart decisions. Also spend some time learning some of these things before you actually invest in the stock market. It's a good idea also to help you take that next step. If your mind is like, but I don't understand, so why should I invest when I don't understand it? Then, learning more about it and getting knowledge. And, there's so much information out there. So instead of drowning in that information, go back and listen to some episodes. Or Michelle has her YouTube channel where you can watch some videos about this topic here. But we're coming towards the end of the show today, Michelle. Do you have any final remarks?
Yeah, if it's just overwhelming, take it one step at a time and you'll get there.
Excellent. With that high point, we're going to say thank you for listening in today, and we'll be back on Tuesday.
Till next time.
If you enjoyed the show and found the content informational, we would be super grateful if you would leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you automatically get new episodes in your feed. We publish a new show every Tuesday.
The contents of the Investing Mastermind podcast are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this is investing advice, and if you need help in your personal situation, please consult with a professional.